Anyway, they indicated at that point that they were being taken over. Well, I got away from the organization and wrote the book and all that. Years passed, and about 7 years ago, I have a friend in Scottsdale, Arizona, named Conrad Murphy. And Conrad goes to a lot of places. He races boats and cars, and he's fairly active fellow in business. Anyway, Conrad is invited to give the morning devotional at some big business breakfast, like for the Arizona 500 Club or something like that. And so he rang me. He says, "Look, guess who I'm going to give the breakfast benediction right next to, who's sitting right next to me next week is Edward Teller." And I said, "Wow." I said, "Can you get to Dr. Teller and say, take a message. I want to talk to him." He said, "Not a problem." So I waited and waited, and the week passed, and so Conrad rang me back, and he says, "Wow." He says, "Well, I sat next to him," and he said, it was all kind of, normal conversation, give the benediction, eat a bit. And he says, after he'd had a couple bites, I said to him, "Look, what do you know about this fellow named Stan Deyo, down in Australia working on anti-gravity and, flying saucers?" And he said, Teller looked at him very blankly and said, "Don't know the fellow." He says, "Oh, that's odd." And he reaches in his coat and pulls out a copy of my book with my photo on it and turns it up in front of Ed Teller. And he said the blood drained out of his face. And he looked away, and a general over on the side who was in uniform came over and took Teller and said, "Dr. Teller's got another meeting," and took him away. So I wondered at that point whether Teller was in charge of anything anymore. You see what I'm saying?
I do. That's very interesting.
I've never been able to get back to the team. It's, I think they did lose. Whatever was trying to take them over did.
And so anyway, after all of that, Stan had to sort of lay low for a while, and he just sort of ended up staying in Australia.
Well, Art, I had to give up my U.S. citizenship to keep from being extradited at the time that they were trying to get to the bottom of this, okay? I'd love to be back in the States.
Were they trying to prosecute you for anything? I mean, what was...
Well, I wasn't sure
like
how it was going to go.
There's a lot of the story missing.
Sorry, say again?
See, that's a delay we have.
Oh,
Sorry, my fault.
No, just go on. It's just what was the reason? What were you? Were they trying to prosecute you for?
There were a number of things, Bob. One of them was that. Oh, there were a number of things. Oh, geez, can I just put the dog on? She wants to say something here. Just a second. I don't know. As I said to you, I was doing some undercover work for the FBI, and they deny, of course, that there were 700 of us doing. Oh.
It's a clear dog from Australia. Believe me, it's coming through very clearly.
These are the most popular dogs on the planet. They've seen a bird out here, and they're trying to eat it.
All right. Well, the question is, Stan, were they trying to prosecute you, or were there threats on your life? How serious was it?
Both. When I went underground, they had really determined they were going to put me underground permanently in Melbourne.
Well,
as a result, I ran, and for a little over a year, I traveled in the Australian bush with, let the hair grow out and wore the sunglasses and traveled with the hippies and whatever just disappeared. Finally, I got hungry and had to come back in. And when I did, I came in under an assumed name and worked for a while. But eventually they caught up with me because I applied for work in companies and had to show my passport.
Can I interrupt you for a second? What was the threat that you presented to them?
Well,
were they afraid of the information that you had, or?
Yeah.
Okay, so that was their main concern, that you were running around with information that you could possibly divulge to someone else, and.
Well, first of all, I would be able to identify them. I mean, I could identify, like by name, the people that were head of it in the Aeronautical Research Center at Fisherman's Bend in Melbourne, and in the Australian Club, who of course control the prime ministers of this country. And there was a number of things that I was privy to that would be rather embarrassing. But in their defense, let me say this. Now that I've had time to think about it, if I'd have been in their position and they were holding the secrets they were and were under the pressures they were, I would probably have ordered my execution as well. It's bigger than one person's life. It's a really, and I'm sure you would appreciate this, Bob, what we're talking about is a cover-up of incredible proportions.
Were you able to continue your research, or did they have all the requisite hardware?
Of course they did. I did do some. I did play around a bit what I could do, but I didn't have access to high temperature coating. I couldn't put my barium titanate or anything else on the capacitive surfaces. But your that video you did with the little ship that had the thermionic converter on it, I don't know why you had to have an element, whatever it was, 1115, because we were quite aware that you could convert thermal energy at around 37 gigahertz on the sampling frequency. You could take random heat and convert it into flowing electric energy.
Well, that's just a thermionic generator. I mean, yeah.
That's it.
But all that does is that's just providing electrical power.
That's correct. As I say, we didn't need 115 to do that, though.
Well, yeah, no one does. I mean, that's how. Space thermionic generators just use plutonium to warm essentially a thermocouple using a Seebeck effect or whatever to produce electrical energy. However, the basis of the craft that I worked on, the electrical energy was merely a byproduct. That was not how the entire craft operated. That's where the 115 came in.
Now, the other thing I noticed in here is you were using gravity wave A and gravity wave B focus fields. Mm-hmm. In the stuff we were working on, the field we would generate was in a toroidal field that would curl.
Well, that's exactly how this was generated. It was essentially in a toroid around the craft.
Oh, okay.
In fact, I just have some of the animators gave me some fantastic graphics that I haven't really been able to post anywhere, but I did want to put them up on the web somewhere because there are a lot of people that are interested in the actual propagation of the gravity field, and I was just about to give those to the guys that handle our web page, and it might be worth having a look at that.
What's the website?
Look,
is it on your site?
Just go to my site and you'll be able to jump right over. Stan, we're out of time in this half hour, but from what I've heard, I think that you two should be communicating.
I know. Well, I never have been able to reach Bob. He kind of did like I did, went to ground, I think.
Yeah. Well, what I'll do is I'll provide Bob with your number in Perth.
Okay.
With your permission, is that all right?
Fine. Excellent.
All right.
Nice talking to you, Bob.
Email might work well too, right?
Yes, it does work well, and we can make those arrangements as well. So.
Well, that would be fine. Yeah, I'd like to talk to him.
All right, Stan. Thank you very much, and we'll put you two in contact. All right.
Good night.
All right. Good night from America, and we'll be right back with Bob Lazar and Gene Huff. This is Coast to Coast AM.